Hello, I'm Hannah, and this is Hannah's Books. I wanted to check in today after hearing from so many of you yesterday by email and Boxer or private messages on Twitter or Instagram. Our corner of BookTube is indeed a sanctuary, a word Steve Donahue used in his video last night. For so many of us, yesterday was a difficult day. My son and I were sitting down to a late lunch yesterday talking about the Senate runoff results coming out of Georgia, among other things, when our phone alarms both went off with word that the mayor of D.C. was putting an evening curfew in place. Immediately after I read her message, I saw the first of the messages from you all and from other non-local friends checking in. So from before I even knew what had happened, I knew we had your support. For the rest of the day, concentrating on anything other than the news was hard. I know I was listening to NPR, watching on-screen footage from assorted mainstream media outlets, texting with my son, who was doing the same thing downstairs, and scrolling through Twitter. What I was supposed to be doing was writing a book review, one I hoped to have ready to proofread this morning. In a minute, I'm going to go back to my book review notes. I promised myself that if I can draft even a little bit of it, I'll reward myself with an hour or so of reading a cozy book. I know it's going to be hard, even with a cozy book, to keep myself from scrolling through my phone to find the latest news. For those of you who don't know, I live inside the Beltway, as they say, in Washington, D.C. We're just a few miles north of the Capitol, in an area that feels completely safe from the kinds of chaos that happened downtown yesterday. My neighborhood is full of career civil servants, people who have long served in various agencies, no matter who was president, and in fact, my husband is one of them. So sometimes things start feeling quite personal when concerns about federal government come up, but I don't think we are in any more danger than all the other residents of this country, and we're certainly in less danger than some. I really want to thank all of you for checking on us. Like I said, we're not in physical danger where we are, but nevertheless, the outpouring meant an enormous amount to me. Every day, I'm increasingly grateful to all of you amazing friends here on BookTube. There was actually one advantage to living so close by. When there are big helicopters circling the Capitol, we can hear them and feel them from inside our house. I first experienced it the morning of 9/11, when it was still unclear what had happened and what was going to happen in D.C. And then this past summer, when the Black Lives Matter protests were just starting and troops were on call, we listened at night to large military helicopters flying over our house from bases in Maryland into the downtown area of D.C. There are definitely times when hearing the helicopters intensifies my concerns about what is happening. But the flip is also true. When the nights are quiet, it suggests that no crisis has happened. I knew I could go to sleep without constantly checking my phone, because if anything horribly violent or even threatening happened here, the helicopters would start up again. And they didn't. And I slept. I want to talk about two moments that hit me hard yesterday. Hit me hard not with rage or fear, but in the sense of making me tear up with love and pride. The first was when Biden came out to give his speech. As some of you know, Biden was not my first choice, or my second choice, or my whatever for a Democratic nominee, but I have embraced the possibility that he might be exactly what this country needs right now. Anyway, as soon as Biden started speaking, former federal prosecutor Preet Bharara tweeted, "The president is speaking." Immediately, I teared up. I thought of that scene in Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, when Reverend Sykes says to Scout, "Miss Jean Louise, stand up, your father is passing." Bharara was almost certainly not thinking about that scene, but I think he was expressing that same respect for a man trying to do the right thing for the country with gravitas and commitment to justice, even if sometimes, as it was even for Atticus Finch, a still too limited justice. When I felt the tears, I thought of my father. He was a white Southerner who grew up in the Jim Crow era, and World War II was one of those events that shaped his later childhood. When he was fresh out of college, he started questioning white supremacy and working against it. It was work he did for the rest of his life, and often work designed to transform racist policies put in place by his state and by his nation. Nevertheless, the one surefire way to make my father cry was to show him an example of peaceful and authentic patriotism. And his tears didn't just come when he saw American patriotism. I remember him crying once when he heard a consciously political version of Waltzing Matilda, which for years people often referred to as Australia's unofficial national anthem. On Tuesday, I thought a lot about my father. It was his birthday, and the day always makes me think about him even more than usual, but especially this past Tuesday. As a white Southerner committed to civil rights and racial justice, he would have been thrilled to see Georgia elect 2 senators, one a black man who served as a senior pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church, where John Lewis was a congregant and where Martin Luther King had served as a pastor, and the other a very young Jewish Southerner inspired by John Lewis when he was just a teenager and then mentored by Lewis until his death. Dad would have been so happy to see what he had long predicted, that a time would come when the South would turn blue again because of African American voters and other Southern voters who care profoundly about issues of racial justice. But yesterday would have horrified him, perhaps specifically because of all the symbols of white supremacy that were on display as the storming mob at the Capitol waved enormous Confederate flags, erected a wooden cross reminiscent of the KKK, and even built a lynching platform outfitted with thick rope tied as a noose. He would have been heartbroken and frightened for the country and furious in his quiet way. What I wish I knew is what he would have done, how he would have been an activist in the face of this. The second moment I want to mention is the speech of House Representative Jamie Raskin during the long night at the Capitol as our political leaders certified Biden's election. A little backstory. Jamie Raskin represents my area of Maryland, and he's my neighbor. When I walk to the Metro subway station 10 minutes away from our house, I walk past Jamie Raskin's house. The morning after the 2016 election, as I made that trek, Raskin was coming out of his house right as I walked past. We looked at each other and paused. Although my eyes were red from staying up much too late watching the presidential returns trickle in and then trying to absorb what happened along with my friends, I tried to muster a smile, and I congratulated Jamie Raskin on his own win. He shook my hand and said with confidence something like, "We can face this. We need to do the right thing now. That's why we're here on this earth." Last week, on New Year's Eve, Raskin's 25-year-old son committed suicide. Jamie and his wife released a beautiful, heartbreaking memorial about their son, which left those of us who knew him and those of us who did not in tears. He talked about his son's commitment to making a better world, even when he was struggling with his own depression. And last night, after acknowledging his family's unspeakable trauma, and even the sadness of having to let go of the people he loved in order to come to the House floor, Raskin immediately turned to the pain that so many Americans have felt this year and are feeling now, and to the importance of justice, integrity, and healing as we go forward. I hope we can. I suspect the next few weeks will continue to be chaotic, but I hope the leadership of people of great principle like Jamie Raskin and many of our other leaders, will get us through. Thank you for joining me today. See you soon.